This video is for you if you feel behind in life. You grow up hearing things like you got one life, make it count. You hear stories about people who achieve success at a young age and you think that's gonna be me. You wake up, you look in the mirror and you're like, dude, I thought you'd be further ahead by now. That is a frustrating feeling, isn't it? But if you gain some clarity and self-awareness around why you feel like you're behind, you might find you're not actually far behind at all. Maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe you just need to think of this whole topic of behind a little different. I want to have a more open conversation today, and hopefully this video helps you. Let's rewind to 23-year-old Clark post-college. I had these big ambitions of I was gonna travel around the world, I was gonna start a business. So that was expectations, but reality was way different. I was 30 grand in debt. 2-year relationship, the girl broke up with me because she didn't believe in the vision. I don't blame her. I'd just gotten canned from my contracting gig that was my only source of income. To make things worse, I had to swallow my pride. I had to move back into my mom's basement, which was not a palace to live in. I describe it as dark, cold, and full of mold. Still have an autoimmune condition from that. And I did, in that moment, what most people do. I compared myself to my friends, to other people online, to entrepreneurs who were further ahead. You know how it goes. Everyone's just crushing it on there. Friend from high school already got married and had a kid. Your other friend got promoted and is working his dream job. And there's an entrepreneur bro who somehow made millions of dollars in 9 months. And it crushed me. Man, it was so discouraging. I felt kind of stupid. I'm like, am I dumber than these people? Or like, what am I missing? So I tell you that story because I've been there. Like, I don't want to set this up and say this like I'm the end all be all success, but it all worked out. Like 90% of everything I put on my vision board when I was in my mom's basement has come true. So this is the conversation in the video I needed when I was in the dark, cold, and full of mold apartment when I was broke at one of my lowest. And I've often said we need encouragement more than we need advice. And so if this video and this conversation can just be the encouragement you need to just keep going. Like, you are so close to where you need to be. There might not be another path you need to be on. You might be exactly in the right spots. Let's zoom out. So feeling far behind, what does that actually mean? I can boil that feeling down into one word for you: comparison. Comparison is the feeling you're far behind. If you say to yourself, I'm far behind, what naturally is a follow-up question is, well, compared to who? Compared to what? Says who? Now, comparison comes from two places. There can be more, but let's simplify. Others. You compare it to others, you look outside yourself and you see what's going on. How do I match up? But also yourself. You compare inwardly and you compare to your own past, to your own vision of the future. Does this match up to what I expected? Let's talk first about others, because this is the one that messes people up and you the most. This is one of the main points I wanted to make for you, is the sneakiest thing comparison does is it gives you a view of one-dimensional success. So you compare, let's say you want to start a business like me. I would compare to these entrepreneurs in my early 20s, and I would see their success, what I thought was success, and I would say, that is what I want that. Or you see a relationship and you're like, dude, that looks perfect on Instagram or social media or a vlog. I want that. This changed my whole worldview and perspective once I learned this one thing. If you're going to compare, you need the full context. What I mean by that is, if you're someone who has a family falling apart, your health is declining, or you have a business that on paper is crushing it, what are you going to showcase online? Well, most people hide these and most people showcase the business. So to the person watching it, they're like, wow, they have it all together. Look at that. Oh, and he occasionally posts a photo of his family and kids. He must have a great, marriage and it's all working out. Only to find, if you follow them for like 5-10 years, their marriage is imploding because they sacrificed it to work on the business. Some of the people you look up to and compare to are the most messed up in the space. Now, I'm not saying that judgmentally towards people, but I'm saying that as someone who was in my early 20s comparing to like people, 3-4 steps ahead, only to be on the other side now and behind the scenes and, get all the drama and all the tea. And I'm like, oh, whoa, that's what's going on? Or like people are putting on these masks like everything's perfect and they're making 200 grand a month, but they're profiting like 10%. And you're like, cool, you're making 20 grand. You have all this complexity, still good, but you're flexing in Lamborghinis that are rented, but you're promo shooting in Airbnbs that you found and you just rented for a few hours because a day was too expensive. You're drowning in ad spend and employees don't get paid. Like, these are the stories behind the scenes that people aren't forthcoming with. So the people that are even seeing what's going on, they're comparing to a fantasy that doesn't even exist. So remember, if you're going to compare, you need the full context. People aren't giving you the full story. And look, I don't even think it's their job to say, hey, and by the way, my marriage is falling apart. And by the way, I'm out of weight and I'm on these 3 meds. I'm not even putting that on them. I'm just putting that on us to keep in mind when everything looks perfect, understand it's one-dimensional success, right? So now that we've talked briefly about comparison, let's approach this from a different angle and talk about feeling far behind. Before that, if you're someone who wants to completely reinvent yourself, see what you're capable of in 10 weeks, you want to feel like a different person by shifting your identity, I'll link down below our coaching program where you can learn more. We helped individuals just like you go from watching YouTube videos about self-improvement to actually applying it, and more importantly, completely changing their life. No pressure. I'll link that down below if you're interested. Back to the video. Another thing you have to understand is everyone's on a different life path. And this is something I wish I knew in my 20s, and I still have to remind myself of, because we all want different things, and that's beautiful and totally okay. So for you, if you're someone who wants kids and a family like in your 20s or as soon as possible, when you see people posting about kids and a family, you're going to compare and feel far behind, like it's not happening for you. Versus someone who doesn't want that and that's out of the equation, they're not going to compare to that because that's not what they want. But also, it might look like someone's far further ahead than you because they had it sooner. But if you let life play out, and let's just say you waited 5-10 years to have kids and a family and get married, flash forward 15-20 years from now, their marriage is falling apart and yours is thriving because you found the right person. So who's further ahead in the long game, not just the short term? So much of life is just gaining experience and letting your life experience compound. It's not quick hits of success, quick bursts. It's a slow build that doesn't get talked about a lot. There's that old saying, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Famously, Sam Walton of Walmart opened his first Walmart when he was 44 years old. Not 24 drop shipping things from China. He was 44 years old. He spent his 20s and 30s gaining retail management experience, so he knew what he was doing. I'm not saying you have to wait till you're 44 to get your big break, but society's definitely gone away from valuing the long term, and we prioritize what's short term and quick. Everyone's so focused on blowing up, on getting a big break. Take those words. Do you want to blow up? No. You want a supernova like a star and just explode? Oh, dude, he blew up his business. Doesn't really sound like a good thing. Oh, dude, he got his big break. You want to break yourself. And this is the thing, a lot of the people who get their big breaks or blow up early on that you're compared to, they don't last because they're prioritizing that immediate short term instead of the long-term longevity. And if you're going after long-term longevity, it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice all your fulfillments and you have to eat whatever for 20 years like Gary Vee's saying, or some business guru. Be smart about it, but it means that you're playing a totally different game. And if you check the tape in 10 years, who's going to be further ahead, the guy who blew up or the person who played the long game? And as someone who has played the long game and at once was like, I just want to blow up, just want to get my big break. Why is it not happening? Now I look back, I see the full context that I'm comparing to. It's so much clearer. That's how life works. Yeah, maybe you don't want to blow up. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. When you blow up and you get your big break early on, you experience that is this all there is feeling very fast, and then you're really screwed because now what's next? Versus if you let the dopamine build in the anticipation of your journey of your life path, it's going to feel better, it's going to last longer, and that's actually going to form you and have better character development than someone who just had the easy shortcut. There's a saying, things that are good for us in the long term hurt in the short term, and things that are good for us in the short term are bad for us in the long term. So maybe you're not far behind, maybe you're exactly where you need to be on this journey. So let's recap where we are. We've talked about feeling far behind and how that's nothing more than another word for comparison. And if you look at comparison, it really boils down to 2 things: comparing to others, which we just discussed, and the second part that's maybe more important, comparing to yourself. Let's talk about it. Let's start with the question, is comparison always bad? There's 2 uses of comparison. First is when you feel it, you get jealous. You're like, oh, compared to them, I want what they have. They're further ahead than me. That's not fair. That's jealousy. The second, that same feeling can be inspiration. Holy shit, that's possible? They're the same age as I could do that? I didn't even realize that was a possibility. Wow, how do I make that happen? There's a Hermetic principle that everything is dual and on the same spectrum. So if you take hot and cold, it's on the same spectrum as temperature. Love and hate, that is on the same spectrum. So like two opposites are really the same thing. I think comparison is that scale. And on two extremes, you have jealousy and envy. But the positive side of that is inspiration. You inspired. Like I'm comparing to that person and whoa, that's a good model. I could be like them. I could have that body. I could achieve those results. In fact, I know this firsthand, and this is what I would challenge you to do, is every time you catch yourself being envious or jealous of people, find that emotion and flip it to inspiration. Why do that? Because jealousy and envy is taking all your power away and it's saying you're a victim. You're gonna say things like, it's not fair. It didn't work out for me and it worked out for them and they cheated. Doesn't that sound like a kid who's like crying to the supervisor on a playground? Versus inspiration, you're giving yourself that power. And instead of a victim, you're a victor. You're like, dude, I'm capable. Of course. Wow, that's really inspiring. Thanks for the inspiration. I'll try that. When you're comparing to people, see if you can flip envy and jealousy into inspiration. And I promise you, your life will change. Whoa, Clark, is this just some nice self-help theory that you're talking about? No, I literally did this. So when I was in my mom's basement, I found these travel vloggers. I saw them and for the longest time, I was like, man, why not me? And I was like, oh, dude, that looks so cool. They escaped their hometown and they're in a tropical place and they're meeting people. And here I am isolated and cold. And I would go in and work this like minimum wage restaurant job and, come home and I would open it up and I would see them. And I was like, oh, man, why not me? One day I just flipped it and I said, why the hell not me? You can book plane tickets. It's going to cost money, but you can save. And so what I did is I saved up a minimum wage job given. I didn't have to pay rent. So there's that too. That was nice. I saved up $3,000. Took me probably 6 months and I bought a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia. Mind you, I had no clue how to travel. I literally didn't have a plan. I just bought a one-way ticket, threw a bunch of clothes in a backpack and woke up in Bangkok, took a train and found the first hostel and passed out for like 48 hours. First thing I did, I woke up, bought a Lonely Planet and started planning my trip there, figuring it out, taking action and figuring out the rest later. And what became just kind of on a whim, I'm going over here. I believe I was there for 6 weeks and it was the time of my life. My point is that one little flip, that change of vocabulary from why not me? Why the hell not me? Why not you? Why not you? If you're seeing someone online posting content and you're like jealous or like you've thought about doing it, you're like, oh man, they're crushing it. I'm not. Why not you? Try it. You can do this at any age, but man, if you're watching this in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, like be thankful that this has hit you where you are right now. You can do so much in 10 years. Like we overestimate what we can do in a week and we underestimate what we can do in a year or a decade. If you want to redesign your life, apply down below for Metamorphic or check it out. No pressure, but for those of you who feel like, I want to do something with this, I'll link down below more info for you. Whew. All right, lot in there. What topics do you want to see? Let me know in the comments below. Anything's on the table. Speaking of reinventing yourself, perfect video. I'll pop up right there on how to shift your identity. This is the deepest layer of who you are. It's the core, your self-image. So we'll talk about designing that and digging down to the true essence of who you are. Love ya. Thanks for watching. Appreciate ya. And stop settling, start living. See ya.